Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 5 of the best fish that you can keep in an outdoor pond. So in particular, we're going to be talking about fish that would do best in a smaller size pond. So something like a patio bowl that you keep on, I guess, your patio. And we're going to steer clear from things like koi and goldfish, which you generally keep in larger ponds. So before we jump into the video, I think it is good to mention if you are keeping smaller fish in a smaller sized pond, especially outside, you probably would want something over the top to stop birds from getting them. So that can just be something like a simple piece of mesh screen. So I've put together a list of 5 that I've had experience with keeping, especially here in Australia, and I know they do well outdoors. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into today's video. As for the first fish on the list today, we have a super popular pond fish, Madoka. So here in Australia, Madoka are getting more and more popular, and you can start to get a really cool variety of different colors. Now, the great thing about Madoka is that they are a top water fish, so if you are keeping them in a smaller size patio bowl, you will see them a lot more than your other sort of fish, just because they're obviously always going to be at the top of your water, which makes them really visible. Not only that, another great thing about these guys is that most of their color is on the top, so being in a pond, obviously you can't really see from the sides, but the top view of these guys is definitely awesome. So one of the reasons Madokas make great pond fish, especially in Australia, is because they can tolerate a wide variety of different water parameters and temperatures. So obviously being outdoors, you will experience weather events like rain and stuff, but that can generally throw off the water parameters, although Madoka are very hardy and they can adapt to the new water parameters quite quickly. And another thing that can fluctuate quite frequently outdoors is the temperature. So Madoka are known for being able to live in really cold environments, and they can also live in quite warm environments as well. In fact, warmer environments are quite preferable, especially if you're trying to breed them, but they can definitely tolerate and thrive in much colder temperatures as well. Although here in Australia, you're probably going to be keeping them in temperatures of around 21 to 25 degrees Celsius, but it's definitely nothing to worry about if the temperature does drop below that or it does exceed that. So yeah, a great fish for a pond setup is definitely Madokas. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have something that a lot of people don't actually keep in ponds, although it's definitely a great addition. We have shrimp. So cherry shrimp are super awesome little pond fish, and if you put them in a pond with a lot of plants, you will find that their numbers just explode and you get a bunch of baby cherry shrimp. So cherry shrimp, much like the Madokas, are quite hardy when it comes to the temperature side of things. As long as it doesn't get too hot, they should be alright. Although here in Australia, it probably wouldn't get too high of temperatures to kill them. Although when it does rain, you may find small fluctuations in the water parameters can throw them off a little bit, but they are very hardy little fish, so they should be okay with those. So this is mainly quite dangerous in smaller sized ponds, just because obviously a smaller sized water body can have a lot more effects on it, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is that, say 10 mils of rain in a smaller body of water is obviously going to change the water parameters more than 10 mils of rain in a larger body of water. So I probably wouldn't keep cherry shrimp in a very tiny setup, especially if they aren't undercover or anything, if they're just straight out where they can get rained on. Although if you are keeping them undercover in, say, like a patio or something, then there shouldn't be much troubles at all with the water fluctuations. So the great thing about cherry shrimp as well is obviously they are compatible with a bunch of other species, and they could go well with most of the fish on this list, which means you can keep them in a pond with other fish, which is obviously a little bit cooler than just keeping them by themselves. But yeah, definitely another great addition is cherry shrimp. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we have one that I'm sure a lot of people probably could have guessed. We have guppies. So guppies obviously are great little pond fish. They are very hardy and they can deal with really large fluctuations in water parameters and temperature. Not only that, but they're really good for mosquito control. So if you have them outside in a smaller body of water, obviously they're going to eat all the mosquito larvae, which will keep the mosquito populations down, as do most of the fish on this list, I will just say, except for the cherry shrimp obviously. But yeah, back to the guppies. So they are, like I said before, super hardy, and small fluctuations or even larger fluctuations in the water parameters from rain shouldn't worry them too much whatsoever. And they can also handle obviously a wide variety of different temperatures. The only thing with guppies is obviously they are quite slow and they are very colorful. So if you don't have a lid or some sort of like mesh screen over the top of your pond, you may find that birds come down and eat them, which is definitely something that you don't want. So to avoid that, you could obviously just put a bunch of cover on the pond, or you could put some sort of screen over the top. So another great thing about guppies is obviously they breed quite frequently, and if you do put maybe 2 pairs in a smaller pond, you will find you get a bunch of different babies, and yeah, it'll just be a super nice colorful little pond. But with that being said, I would highly recommend guppies as another great addition to any small pond. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another live bearer. We have swordtails. So swordtails, in my opinion, are a little bit more interesting than guppies when it comes to keeping them in a pond. They don't get preyed upon as much by birds just because they are a little bit faster than guppies, and they are generally less colorful. Although that doesn't mean you can get some absolutely amazing colored swordtails. There is definitely a wide variety of super beautiful ones out there. So swordtails, I would say, are a little bit more hardy than guppies just because they're less prone to a lot of diseases. So swordtails can also withstand the fluctuations in water parameters and temperature as well. So a little bit of rain shouldn't hurt them too much. And actually here in Australia, you can actually find a lot of wild type swordtails throughout the creeks, which obviously means they do well with the rainwater here. So a great thing about swordtails is they don't breed as much as guppies. So if you don't want a super populated little pond, I would definitely recommend swordtails. So much like the guppies, the swordtails also will help with mosquito control, and they will eat a lot of the larvae, which is actually super useful because it means you don't have to feed them as much. And swordtails are a little bit bigger than the other fish, which means they are easy to see, and yeah, they're just another super awesome little fish that you can add into your pond. Now, moving on to the final fish on our list, we have one that's super similar to swordtails, but we have mollies and platies. So technically mollies and platies are 2 completely different species, although they are very comparable, and they both require pretty much the same water parameters, same temperature, and they both breed the same. So they breed a little bit less than the swordtails in my experience, which is another great reason to get them, just because they won't overpopulate your tank too much. And they are a little bit less hardy than the swordtails and guppies, although they can withstand obviously large fluctuations in water parameters and temperatures. The only thing that I'd say these guys have against the swordtails is that they are a little bit slower, but they are a lot more colorful. And you can get a lot more variety in the mollies and platies than you can in the swordtails. So if you were keeping mollies or platies in a pond, I definitely would probably steer clear from the balloon mollies, just because they are a little bit more slow, which obviously makes them more prone to being attacked by birds and other predators. But the regular variants should do just fine, and they are definitely a great little addition for your ponds. The other great thing about mollies and platies is they don't need a big pond whatsoever, and they can thrive quite well in a really small or shallow body of water, which means keeping these guys in a patio bowl is much like keeping the guppies in a patio bowl. The only thing is that they are a little bit bigger and a little bit easier to see. So yeah, if you want a little bit more of a larger and colorful fish, I would definitely recommend mollies for your patio pond. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys find a new little fish to put in your pond. It is a little bit more of a different video than I usually do, but I'm sure a lot of people can learn from this, and I really hope it did actually help you guys. If you haven't already, please make sure to go down and subscribe and comment down below while you're down there. I always love reading all the comments. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in that next video.